I want to thank you all for joining us today to get an update on the company following the corporate update we released this morning before the open. Plurilock trades on the TSXV under the ticker symbol PLUR and on the OTC with the ticker PLCKF. The company is currently trading with a market cap of 50 million and sells cybersecurity solutions to governments and global 2,000 companies. Today on the call, we have Ian Paterson, CEO, and Scott Meyers, CFO. I'd like to remind everyone that this call is being recorded and that everyone is in a listen-only mode. Following the presentation, we'll take questions. Questions can be submitted at any time via the question box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that today's webinar may contain forward-looking statements. These forward-looking statements reflect the company's current views regarding future events and financial performance and are based on assumptions and subject to risks and uncertainties. Our actual results may differ materially from those expressed or implied by those forward-looking statements. These risks may include, but are not limited to, financial performance, market and industry conditions, strategic initiatives, operational developments, regulatory and legal considerations. We caution you not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements, which speak only as of today's date. We undertake no obligation to update or revise any forward-looking statements, whether as a result of information, future events, otherwise, except as required by law. For a more detailed discussion of the risks and uncertainties that may affect our future results, please refer to our filings, including our most recent annual report and quarterly reports on SEDAR+. Okay, with all of that out of the way, I'd like to now introduce Ian Paterson, CEO of Plurilock. Go ahead, Ian.
Thanks, John. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us. It's been a very busy first half of the year. And given the high volume of calls that we're receiving and the interest from the investment community over the last month, wanted to take some time to update shareholders and the investment community at large. So to start, we'll talk about an update on our journey, paint a clear picture of the future. We're also going to talk about the cybersecurity market overall, because there's been a lot happening. So to start, we'll talk about the market we are serving and the tailwinds we have in the cybersecurity market. As the digital economy continues to expand, so too does cybercrime, as our online mobile interactions are creating billions of potential vulnerabilities. It feels like every week we get news of a new high-profile breach. For example, just in the last couple of weeks, AT&T reported a data breach of tens of millions of its wireless customers and paid almost $400,000 to the hackers to supposedly erase the information. This comes on the back of a report earlier that indicated that we are up to 1 billion data records that have been breached year to date, and we're only just past the halfway through the year mark. Geopolitical tensions, shifting regulatory compliance, proliferation of generative AI, and a lack of skilled workers provide further tailwinds for us, for the business, and for cybersecurity at large. Now, more than ever, it is imperative for enterprises, organizations, and individuals to protect their sensitive information while safeguarding critical networks and infrastructure. So Plurilock is a trusted cybersecurity provider across North America and NATO countries. We operate a portfolio of mature brands with strong name recognition in the marketplace who trust Plurilock to keep them safe and help them stay compliant. We have 3 lines of business. We have our solutions business, where we resell products and software to some of the largest companies and organizations across North America, including both the U.S. federal government, a number of states, Canadian federal, and Fortune and Global 2000 commercial organizations. We also have a software business, which we call Plurilock AI, doing approximately $1 million a year. This initial offering really established a strong reputation within the Canadian and U.S. government sectors. Finally, we have our newest line of business, which is a big focus of growth for us and one which we're going to be talking about a lot today, which is Plurilock Critical Services. This business segment was up 66% last quarter at approximately $1 million in the quarter. And critical services carries reasonably high margins in the 40 to 50% range, and is growing as we mine our existing relationships within the other parts of our business to cross-sell and upsell these capabilities. We expect that this aspect of the business to continue to expand. We've already added additional sales resources to focus on growth here, and this should positively impact financial performance as we continue to see revenue growth. We'll talk now about some of the orders that we've announced since the beginning of the year, which have totaled over $20 million in new orders since January 1st. The consistent order flow from both government and commercial clients across a diverse set of industries as the company continues to support critical infrastructure that underpins society. Recently, we've secured orders from U.S. public institutions, hospitals, the U.S. Department of Treasury, major healthcare and pharma laboratory data firm, as well as a multinational and NASDAQ 100 semiconductor company, as well as other government agencies in the United States and Canada. I'd like to highlight one of our recent wins, and that is our contract expansion within the semiconductor company that I mentioned. This client is a great example of an ideal customer for us, in so much as they have both a business problem, a technology problem, and a geopolitical problem, and one for which Plurilock is very well suited to help address. This is a perfect example also of how we are penetrating deeper into the customer operations, following on from initial work that we had done, and providing them additional critical services that they need for business resiliency, continuity, and in cybersecurity operations. It's also a perfect example of our strategy moving forward, which is leveraging the trusted relationships we have, upselling and cross-selling higher margin, higher value solutions to both better serve our customers and also to maximize profitability. Critical services for us is a high growth engine. And I'd like to take a moment to dive more deeply into this part of the business. It isn't that we do not expect our reseller business to continue to thrive and add new customers and see continued growth, but investors have been focusing on operations which provide higher margin businesses. And so I want to talk to you about what we do in critical services, why it is important, and why it is both a growth and a profit engine for Plurilock moving forward. Plurilock has the deep government security technology expertise to ensure regulatory compliance and really provide comprehensive solutions to address the critical needs of U.S. government, Canadian government, and large multinational enterprises. Recognizing the increased need for specialized security services, which many companies and organizations we sell to lack internally the capabilities to perform, Plurilock shifted some resources towards critical services by launching a dedicated line of business in February of 2024. Our strategic plan involves building on established client relationships, those of which I've previously discussed and more, to convert initial one-time engagements into recurring, repeatable, and sticky services. Historically, gross margins for our solutions business have been anywhere from 5 to 15%, whereas historically, gross margins for our services are anywhere from 35, 40 to 50%, with some projects extending even higher. Ultimately, by identifying complementary higher margin and higher value offerings, Plurilock is able to utilize our network of clients to introduce new capabilities, new solutions, and new services that address the security needs. Now, this not only expands the client value, but actually improves client retention while boosting profitability. Now I'd like to invite Scott Meyers, who is CFO, to talk a little bit about some of the past revenue and financial performance of the company. Scott.
Thank you, Ian. In 2023, Plurilock achieved just over $70.4 million in revenue. That was with a gross margin of 8.3%. In comparison, the year before, we did $64.5 million with 7.7% of gross margin. The progress here on gross margin illustrates that our strategy towards higher margin critical services is starting to work. Critical services is driving our ambition to achieve sustained profitability. Critical surgeon margin now is 14% of the overall gross margin. And as we grow in this area, we are expecting critical services will account for more and more of our margin dollars. Recently, our stock has received the re-rating with the closing of our recent financing for $5.5 million. We were coming off an extremely low valuation for a company with $70 million of revenue and a strong customer Rolodex. We now have a strong platform to execute on the business and drive sales, particularly in critical services and using that Rolodex. This focus area experienced 66% year-over-year growth in Q1 2024, and we anticipate this growth to continue as evidenced by our recent expansion contract with a leading semiconductor company. Q1 saw gross profits of $2.5 million, which is 19% growth year-over-year. We are prioritizing high-end consulting and services above software sales has led to faster sales cycles with improved margins. Q1 also had gross margins roughly of 22%, up from 13.6% in Q1 of 2023. And this was a direct result of critical services division becoming a larger portion of total revenues. Our dual approach to product resale and high margin services delivery enables us to capture volume while driving numbers towards profitability, which is a near-term goal for management and the company. In addition, we've also streamlined operations across all of the business units. We've integrated all of our 4 acquisitions, as well as we identified and implemented cost-saving measures, which should realize $2 million in savings annually. We are reinvesting these cost savings back into the company, and particularly in the critical services area, and hiring key leading talent. Plurilock is committed to achieving cash flow break-even, and we are using our existing client base to provide a solid expansion platform for higher margin services, minimizing the need for additional CapEx. Presenting an opportunity to convert one-time sales into sticky managed service contracts, generating more and more stable and predictable revenue streams. Looking to our capital structure, in April 2024, Plurilock welcomed Ali Hakimzadeh as our executive chairman, bringing extensive experience and his proven track record of successfully growing and exiting tech companies. Most recently, he was the chairman of HS GovTech, that was brought by private equity. And also, we've completed a 10-to-1 share consolidation to optimize the capital structure. We then announced a $3 million financing to grow critical services and expand the sales team. However, we had such demand that we closed a round for an upsized $4.5 million. And then due to that demand, we also undertook an additional private placement for $1 million, with total gross proceeds of $5.5 million. We are now cashed up and have hired 3 new salespeople and are looking to add a 4th. The company also settled outstanding payables through share issuances and convertible debentures over $1 million to conserve working capital. These steps position Plurilock for long-term financial stability and shareholder value creation. And now flip it back to Ian. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I think in addition, Scott was just highlighting some of the new operational additions to the team. I think some of the other ones that I would also want to note. We're also gaining attention in the industry and attracting very strong leadership for our industry advisory council. We made 2 announcements last week. The first, Joe Sexton, who was president of a company called AppDynamics, which was acquired by Cisco for $3.7 billion. He was also a former CrowdStrike board member and actively on the board of a number of cybersecurity technology companies, including Menlo. Bryan Cunningham, who's the other name that we announced last week, former White House cyber and national security lawyer, was a longtime Palantir senior advisor, and has been involved in all aspects of cybersecurity over the last 2 decades. So we're very pleased with the notoriety that we're gaining and the type of talent that we are attracting, and we are excited to start working with them. I think we're going to get to questions here in just a little bit, so I would encourage those who do have questions to fill them out in the Q&A function, and we'll use that moving forward. I think, Brian, I see that you're actually on the call, and would invite for you to maybe say a few words about your perspective on cybersecurity, and perhaps Plurilock's position within it.
Hey, thanks, Ian. Scott, Great to speak to all of you. I'm just going to give you 3 bullets about my background real quick, because I think it's helpful to understand my perspective. Also, sorry, I didn't get the sport coat memo, guys. So next time I'll be better prepared. So listen, I was a career CIA officer. This is how long I go back. I was a KGB, Soviet KGB analyst for the CIA, which is a skill set I thought would never become relevant again. But in the Putin era and the Xi era in China, I think it is. I also was Condoleezza Rice's lawyer for intelligence and counterterrorism operations, and then cybersecurity when we began looking at that after 9/11. And so advised the National Security Council, President, Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor Rice, and most relevantly, was involved in drafting the first national strategy to secure cyberspace, which I'm happy to say, for those of you who are fans of bipartisanism in the United States, has held up pretty well over the last 25 years, very similar to the current strategy. So look, for the last 20 so years, I've been a cyber national security lawyer, law of war lawyer, and consulting expert. And I've been a senior advisor to Palantir since 2006, when they had 15 employees. And my main role there has been and is to run an outside advisory council, helping Palantir see around corners, future world developments, future technology developments, since around 2010. Why did I mention that? Well, the reason is that as I look around the corners right now, what I have seen has led me to leave my current position at the University of California, Irvine, where I run a cybersecurity institute, and focus on what I believe is the most important security mission for the coming decades. I believe that the US, Canada, and all Western democracies, and Israel, Australia, et cetera, so not just Western, are already in a global conflict with authoritarian regimes, principally the People's Republic of China and Russia, to determine whether democracy will be replaced with authoritarianism in the 21st century. And I see it exactly that starkly. I'm not using hyperbole. This competition, I believe, is going to determine our great-grandchildren's future, and whether our children will have to fight a hot war, or this competition will be resolved through technology and expertise. And this is why I'm leaving my job at UC. I've been working with the White House and Treasury on a number of cybersecurity initiatives. I took a position as general counsel to a startup on quantum encryption a few years ago, and now I'm honored to support Plurilock's vital mission. Why? Because in my view, whoever gets there first, whether it's us or whether it's the bad guys, on artificial intelligence, on cybersecurity, on quantum computing, and on chip security, semiconductor security, will have the best chance of winning this war without any shots fired. And as we learned last week, our cyber infrastructure remains riddled with single points of failure. And while the CrowdStrike Microsoft incident does not appear to have involved a cyber attack, it does show the folly of relying on a single technology or a single approach to defend our critical infrastructure's most vital capabilities and information. Instead, reliable cybersecurity depends not on a single tool or a single approach, although technology is important, but including Plurilock's behavioral biometrics-based constant authentication. But no technology, including AI, can replace qualified experts to triage threats, set up and constantly improve a cybersecurity program, and respond to attempted or successful attacks. And we're looking at millions of unfilled cybersecurity jobs right now and for the foreseeable future, and these cannot be replaced with machines. So critically, in my view, real durable cyber and data security requires a team of bona fide experts who understand not just the cybersecurity aspects, but the legal and regulatory environment clients are operating, the global threats they face as they evolve, the true needs, real business priorities, and vulnerabilities of each individual client. And again, and sometimes most importantly, the current and emerging legal and regulatory landscape and requirements for each client. Human experts up to date on all available technical tools, best practices, and legal and regulatory environments are critical to any critical infrastructure or other business to develop solutions tailored to their specific business needs. And in my estimation, having had some very deep conversations with the Plurilock team, their critical services folks excel at this. I'm just going to give one important example of what I'm talking about, then I'm going to shut up unless people have questions. And an important example of the critical infrastructure challenges we face in what, again, I think is probably going to be a century-long conflict, is winning the semiconductor race. This is why the president and Congress, who can't agree on almost anything, passed the CHIPS Act. This is why we're so focused on reshoring a lot of our chip manufacturing. And I predict that the combination of skills and technologies developed to defend semiconductor manufacturing and their supply chain will be highly relevant to protecting quantum computing technologies and other capabilities in the future. So think of it like this. If you go out and hire a Deloitte or an Accenture, you might get the very best people they have, but odds are you won't. If you hire a team like Plurilock, you will always get the A team, if you want to say the special operations forces, as opposed to the regular army, who can throw hundreds of thousands of bodies and very brave soldiers, but can't do that targeted capability of attack and defense. My CEO boss at Palantir, Alex Karp, likes to say he would rather have 5 world-class engineers than 5,000 very good engineers. And that's what we have, I think, at Plurilock. I could talk a lot about the potential for the need for offensive cyber capabilities, hackback capabilities, and the legal and regulatory landscape around that. But I think I'll just end with this. One thing that's very important to me, and if you Google me, you'll see that I've been very outspoken about TikTok and the Chinese government and things like that, is that Plurilock is entirely made up of infrastructure and employees outside of high threat adversary areas like the PRC and Russia. And that is not always the norm. So thanks. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them. And if anybody wants to follow up, feel free to get a hold of me.
Thank you, Brian. Very much appreciate your jumping on today, and appreciate your willingness to support the mission that Plurilock is on. Cybersecurity is a massive industry. Spending on it is not discretionary. It is a must-have. And what we're seeing with our customers is that budgets might be getting cut, layoffs might be happening elsewhere in the business, but they are reinvesting it back into cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is just a key area to be invested in. Second, Plurilock as a company, we're focused on organic growth. We're focused on the road to profitability. The reset and transformation from the spring allows us to focus on scaling the core business. Ultimately, you heard from Brian, and you'll see also from some of the press releases that we've been putting out, critical services is critical not only to Plurilock, but to our customers. And ultimately, the operational efficiencies from the acquisitions that we have made, from the velocity that we are seeing in the business, sets ourselves up really well for the opportunity to come. So with that, I appreciate everybody who has stayed on to hear this update. And Sean, I will pass it over to yourself.
Thanks again for everybody for joining the call. And please, reach out to us. Our information's on the screen here. I'd also encourage you all to sign up for our investor updates at www.plurilock.com/IR.